Hi there, beautiful soul. Welcome back to Grada's Talk. Today, I want to show you how trauma energy that's blocked in your body stops you from enjoying or receiving and experiencing the life that you want, the life that you set out to have. Many of my clients work so hard and they've got everything in place, and yet life is still not working out for them in the way that it should. And a lot of the time it's due to trauma energy that's stuck in their body, that they're not aware that it's there. And so trauma is like a trigger word, right? So not many people like to have a discussion about trauma, or people don't like to speak about it openly. And actually, interesting enough, a lot of the time we don't even realize how much trauma we have in our body, how many layers of trauma we have in our body. I used to be like that. So I just turned 63, but I remember when I was 40 years old, I went to a very trustworthy therapist in Hobart, which for me was like 3 hours drive. I could barely afford the fee or spend the time, but she actually spent the whole day with me one Saturday. And I trusted her because she'd had really good results with my youngest son who had dyslexia. And when she started to work with my body, so I always seek out a therapist that can deal with the mind, body and soul, right? Not just one aspect of your life. So she could take in the whole view. And she said to me when I was 40, Grada, did you know that you've been physically, emotionally and spiritually abused in your childhood? And were you sexually abused as well? So I got a huge shock because up to that point, yes, I'd had anxiety sometimes and suffered a little bit of anxiety and depression over the years, but I'd always been really healthy, capable, productive, successful, super mom. I was never sick, and I was always healthy and happy. And all I could remember from my childhood was how good it had been. Like I belonged to like a tight network of the church and lovely family that was very supportive and so on. So my therapist at the time, she spent quite a lot of time clearing trauma from my body, but then I didn't pick it up, I didn't work with it. And then 3 years later, I had a huge accident that left me paralyzed with traumatic injuries, life-threatening injuries. And ironically, the accident was caused by a Dutch truck driver who obviously didn't see me in time because he was on medication for his bone cancer. And then funny enough, he left me with many broken bones as well. I'm only telling you this because there is a saying, and this is written by probably the most famous book ever written on trauma and the devastating effect it has on you, your cells, your body, your family, your children. His name is Bessel van der Kolk, and the book says the body keeps the score, right? So our body contains the library of everything that's ever happened to you right from the moment of conception, but our mind hides the score, right? So our mind is always tricking us and telling us different stories and minimizing the impact of this and ignoring something else, and our mind keeps us distracted and confused. And if we don't do our internal work, we can end up, of course, paying. We will always pay for the trauma that is hidden in our tissues. Everything that we suppress gains momentum, and it's going to bite us back in the bum at a certain point when you least want it. Well, of course, it's never welcome. So, cut a long story short, when I was 40, I had this wonderful treatment. I felt good afterwards, and I didn't pick up that I should be doing much deeper work. I was already working as a healer, but I was under the impression that everything in my own body was great, right? Of course, till I got hit by a truck. So you have to remember there are no coincidences in our universe. Everything always happens for us, not to us. So that's a really good way to look at your life. Everything from from whether it's disease, good things or bad things. Blessings, of course, are welcome, like really good things, but hardships, everything is happening for you so that you can take inventory of your life. So you listen to your body. Your body is trying to tell you something. It's trying to wake you up to something so that you can work through it. And on the other side, once you've worked through your traumas, there is more freedom, of course, and then obstacles are removed. Usually it's easier for you to connect with other people, and you have the capacity to love yourself and others more. It all comes with that. That is like the beauty when you heal your trauma. So I've dedicated my healing, my work as a healer for the last 25 years. I've dedicated myself to specialize in trauma work. And here's the thing that many people don't realize, that the trauma energy that's stuck in your body is actually not your energy. It's foreign energy that took up space, precious space and energy in your body. And it makes you feel tired, overwhelmed, stressed, triggered, and creates difficulty. It's like a foreign body that your own body is always trying to get rid of, right? So when I work with my clients, I mostly work as an energy medicine specialist. So I discovered that when you work with energy, you can access the body, the tissues. Of course, you can access the mind, the emotional body, and the spiritual part. You can also tap into the ancestry. You can tap into all the information that your body holds, and then I can clear that very, very quickly and easily. So just as an example, I want to tell you about Lisa, one of my clients who came to me with like chronic tension headaches and also a lot of self-hatred, or you could call it self-loathing. So she really, really struggled with self-love and putting herself first. And when she talked about her work, her face lit up. So she was a nurse, a dedicated nurse, and she loved dealing with the patients and all the rest. But she had a lot of stress at work because she was always clashing with her colleagues. And at home, she also had a lot of stress because she was a perfectionist, and she was very exacting. So she always set really high standards, and she didn't suffer fools gladly, right? So this all created a lot of tension in her nervous system and also in all her relationships. And so after taking a history, I got her to lie down and relax on my healing table, and then straight away I noticed she had a lot of trauma in her heart and solar plexus area. And when I cleared that energy, she suddenly remembered something, and she remembered a day that she was 4 years old and she was waiting for her father to come home, and because she wanted a cuddle for him, his daily cuddle, but instead what she got was a smack around the face when he opened the door because she'd done something wrong during the day. Maybe she'd been naughty, or her father was tired or overwhelmed, and that trauma got frozen in her solar plexus. And then, of course, she started to defend her father, which is something that we always do, right? But it doesn't matter. I cleared the energy anyway, so it doesn't matter what my clients say verbally. That really hasn't got much impact. And so she started to feel more relaxed and more safe. And then we were able to connect with her inner child. So when we are young and our parents are busy, or they're not emotionally available, or they ignore us, or they abuse us, even if they are well-meaning, it still happens to the child. The child always chooses the side of the parent, because the parent is the caretaker. Without the parent, they die. So it's like a survival mechanism that steps in. And what we do is we abandon ourselves and we choose the side of the parent. And of course, part of us splits off then. And this part starts to work against us sometimes, right? It creates disease in our body. It creates unrest and distress and fight. Negative energy, right? This is what we call like a splinter in your body that is constantly like creating pain and suffering for you, or also in your relationships. So Lisa, my client, she realized that her 4-year-old child had become a perfectionist, because if you're perfect, nobody's going to criticize you, and you're never going to get into trouble, and nobody's going to hit you or slap you around the face and so on. So after a few more sessions, Lisa was free from many layers of trauma, and she wasn't clashing anymore with the people at work. And of course, she was able to restore a sense of self-love and connection, which then reflected in the fact that she was able to receive love and connection and attention with people around her. So trauma causes us to disconnect. That's the deep harm of trauma. And even our organs can become disconnected from each other as well. So for instance, your kidneys may not be talking as easily, say, to your bladder, or your spleen and your liver can start a little bit of a fight. And this all happens on an energetic level, by the way, which is very easy for me to see and to pick up and to dissolve and delete. And then it's like resetting your phone, right? So suddenly everything starts to flow again. You feel that shift in energy yourself. And then when you go home, your circumstances will confirm that you have received a wonderful shift of energy, that is positivity in you now, and it's not fake positivity. This is the real you. When you clear trauma, the real you, the real self, can take up the space that should have been there all along. So you become more home in your body, more comfortable, and everything starts to work for you. So I just wanted to talk about that. So the more you heal yourself from trauma, and everyone has trauma in the body, everyone, like the statistics show that 75% of people in the US have had at least one major traumatic event in their lives. But of course, everyone, realistically speaking, we come into this world, there is a lot of stress and dysfunction in this world. 1 in 3 couples participates in domestic violence, or 1 in 3 households, you could say. I'll just quickly look it up. The statistics are all there. 1 in 5 humans has been sexually abused in their childhood, or maybe in their adulthood. But our childhood traumas leave the biggest imprint in the computer. So 1 in 5 people has been sexually abused. So like if you go for a little walk down the street, just remember 1 in 5 humans has been sexually abused. 1 in 3 households has an element of domestic violence. And like everyone suffers from trauma. And really, when you look at it in that light, it's incredible that we still get on as well with each other as we do. We have communities, we have good times, we have love and connection, and there's friendships and all the rest. But all this could be a lot easier without the toxic, traumatic energy that gets stored in our body. And the body keeps the score, and then eventually the body wants to settle the score. So in my case, that was a truck accident. So when I had to spend 12 weeks lying very, very still on my back for all the bones to heal and all the operations to work through and all the rest. And during that time, of course, I was forced to do lots of internal work. Anyway, I wasn't forced. That's what I wanted to do as well, because I wanted to make sure that an accident like that would never happen to me again. And I started to write everything down that I remembered from my childhood and things that didn't add up and all the rest. And eventually I created and published 3 books. So the first one is You Are the Miracle. So that's all about the lead up to the accident. Then I wrote another book called The Underbelly, which is really about the period of time after I had the accident, and my mind was completely broken from all the trauma and from pretending to push through. So I was starting to fall back in old habits, right? And then the 3rd book is a very happy book. So this is about the birth of all my grandchildren. It's got lots of recipes, the history of the Purple House, and we used to have a cafe as well. So just like community stories. Actually, those books became bestsellers on Amazon. So I encourage you to download the books. You can download them on Kindle for almost next to nothing, and start valuing yourself and believing in yourself. You are worth it to have the best life that the universe and that your own soul planned for you before you came into the body, right? That life can be so good without all those layers and layers of trauma in your body. You start to feel so light, you just feel so young. My body also fully recovered. Like eventually my spinal injury is healed, which is a miracle in itself. But our body can do miraculous things if it's free to just move forward, and if we can clear the trauma energies. And of course, in today's world, we also understand now that our traumas, if we don't deal with them and we don't digest them, and they get passed on to our children and grandchildren and future offspring. So that's very clear today as well. So it's really important that each one of us, that we know how to clear our traumas, and that it's best done by a trauma clearing expert, okay? Because traumas are put into us by other humans, and so they have to be dissolved and deconstructed almost by another human. So the way that it was put in, the same way it has to be undone by a human that is trustworthy, that makes you feel safe, and that can work very efficiently. So I hope that this sheds a little bit of light on the subject of trauma. Just think of trauma as an overwhelming accident or an emotional accident, an overwhelming experience that caused part of you to shut down, or even to break off, or to get lost to you, and now it's time to find it again. So make yourself the priority, and seek help and book in for a session with me if you resonate with this. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful week. Bye for now.